Thanks, Lorenzo. So thanks for having us and joining us in the igloo today. A couple of things I wanted to get across before we start. This is our first time presenting, not just at ComCon, but in general, so please be gentle with us. We've also been given a 40-minute slot for today. We're likely to come in a bit shorter than that, probably about 30 minutes, if the demo gods are kind to us. Okay, so I'm Frazer, Simwood's account manager, and this is Kathleen, our level 2 SIP engineer. Some of us, you've probably seen us at other conferences. You know, most of you, I think. But if you don't, come and say hello to us this week. You're also probably wondering why there's no Simon today. Well, you can blame Mr. Jenkins for that. Apparently he booked it on the wrong week. So I know I'm not as pretty or as clever as Simon. That's why I brought Kathleen. She's going to take care of a lot of the technical stuff there. So we're here today to talk to you about a business challenge we face and how we solved that with WebRTC, Drachtio, RTP engine. So I should probably give you a bit of background about how, why, what, and why we're here. In 2015 or so, we had a product known as Simwood Mobile, and it was really good. And instead of me go gibbering on for the next sort of minute or so about Simwood Mobile, I thought it would probably be easier to dig out an old video from our archives that kind of demonstrates why we loved Simwood Mobile so much. So if you just take 50 seconds or so to watch this, and then I'll continue.
This is a quick demo of our new mobile PBX registration feature. Here we see new partner manager Craig's Simwood phone. When we call his extension from our PBX, it presents the local extension as the caller ID. We can also see that the busy lamp is lit when he's on the phone. If we call a local extension from the mobile, it appears just like any other internal call. When we call an external number, it presents his direct line. Again, the busy lamp is lit when he's on the phone. This is a brand new feature available on all Simwood mobile developer sims and can be enabled using our API or in the mobile section of the new portal.
Okay, so that's a really old product from 2015, 2016. A couple of things I wanted to point out that might not have been obvious in that video is that that was all using GSM and some technology that we developed ourselves. So it was acting as a SIP UAC without softphone or data, which is really cool. Unfortunately, that service was pulled in around 2016, I think, when I joined the company, due to the MNO sort of going bust. We're still keen on mobile, so where next? Simon discovered mobility several years ago, and if he had his way, we wouldn't have desk phones in our office. We'd all be soft phoned up. In fact, we haven't even got chairs in our office. We've all got standing desks, and it's all part of the discovering mobility mantra. Kathleen, she joined the business recently and didn't even know what a landline was. Again, part of mobility. She preaches mobile, so on. MNO status is something that's always been a desire, and we see mobile as the future. We've got all this dormant legacy tech waiting to be reused, and if we could just get MNO status, that's all we need to unlock the keys to the toy chest. We've been trying to get something from Ofcom known as an MNC for a while now, and it's been any day now for some time, and it'll be any day now for the foreseeable future. But we will get an MNC, it's just a matter of when. So we know what we want from a mobile experience, and we've got a small shopping list for anything that we might do. It has to have open standards, it must be secure, it must do high definition calling, it must handle NAT properly, and of course not kill your battery. Well, Groundwire came close, and this isn't an attack on Groundwire. I love Groundwire. I've used Groundwire for the last 7 or 8 years. It does the job, it's great. But if we were going to build something, Groundwire would probably be our first choice. But in the last month or so, doing all of these tests and using it extensively, we've noticed a couple of things. And the first thing is, it's quite slow. And when I say slow, I mean on an inbound call, for the media to come in on a call, it's anywhere between 5 and 20 seconds. And that's a pain. When we put that down to flaky connectivity or whatever other variable, but it's slow. With an even deeper dive looking into GroundWire, we noticed it doesn't even take care of every option on our shopping list. Yes, it has open standards, and yes, it does the high def calling, but the other three, not so much. And I can see probably you might question TLS and SDES, and I agree with you, GroundWire does have TLS and SDES as an option within the app, but it doesn't handle it in a way that we're entirely comfortable with. So where next? Do we put up with something that ticks off half a shopping list, or do we build something where we might have a little more control? Now, we've heard some really cool things about
WebRTC. But the question is, does WebRTC meet the needs that we've listed above? So first, we have security. So yes, TLS and SDES, and not only that, it's mandatory in WebRTC. So right off the bat, it's already checking something we require. The quality is still great because it uses Opus and variable bitrate with FEC, so it's already kind of meeting our quality requirements as a standard default. And it handles NAT. WebRT is used to handling calls between multiple NATed connections, so it handles NAT natively. And it doesn't kill the battery, because WebRTC doesn't use SIP conventionally, it uses WebSockets, and the mobile operating system can handle the WebSocket side of things, so there's no third-party involvement and the battery's not getting slammed. That's how we created VoxAP. So, on the left, you can see we have an example SIP softphone, and on the right we have VoxAP. The SIP softphone is much busier. You have registration going from the mobile to the PBX, and then credentials and ultimately the metadata are sent off to a third-party notification proxy, who knows where, so that can also register to the PBX. So when a call comes in, this PBX could be sending 2 invites to 2 different places. The phone, on the off chance that the app is awake, and the notification service, which itself then sends data and passes that on to the phone. VoxAP, however, is much simpler because we use WebRTC from the app to the core. We have a secure channel through which we choose to send SIP, though you don't really have to, and we send secure RTP. And using that channel, we have secure media running from the app to the core. It's much simpler. And thanks to the lovely Dave Horton, we have Drachtio. Simwood code embeds Drachtio on the server side, and a WebSocket between Drachtio and the app does all the heavy lifting, such as setting up SIP and any of the other interactions, and it orchestrates our TP engine, which handles our secure media. We already use our TP engine in our network, so it means VoxAP integrates really nicely with what we already have as a core service. And it doesn't kill the battery. Because it doesn't have to register, when you open the app, it does one call home and passes some validation, and you don't have to keep the app open or reopen the app to continue using it. Additionally, there's not a problem with the registration expiring because we already know the identity of the app, and we can use the mobile operating system to wake the app up. So using Drachtio, we hold the call until the app is awake, and then the call can be completed. This means no incremental battery usage and no third-party interaction. And it's fast. But why take my word for it when we can just show you a demo? First, a little salt over the shoulder for luck, a quick prayer to the demo gods, and a reminder that this is in beta, and some of our features are super alpha. Super alpha. So in this, I have 2 pre-configured contacts, one that'll call a GroundWire instance on Frazer's phone, and one that'll call a VoxAP instance. What we're going to do is demonstrate the time it takes for the media to establish between the 2. So first up, GroundWire. Well, if it works. Let's try one more time. All right, third time might be the charm, and as we said before, in testing this, we did have a bit of an issue getting it to connect at all. All right. Let's try VoxApp. Yeah. Let's see VoxApp. Give it just a second. My connectivity is a little bit, yeah.
Hello.
Nearly instant. Now let's go back and see if we can get GroundWire to work. Nope. Yeah. Oh, there it is. There we go. So you can see the difference between the two, and VoxApp is much faster. Oh, demo. Thank you. So to review, it's approximately 20 times faster than some of the native SIP apps we've tried. There's no third-party proxies, so we're not trusting any outside networks. There's no client-side voodoo, so it's pretty stable. Battery usage is nearly zero. Our quality, we're still using Opus and variable bitrate with forward error correction, and it's NAT friendly. And it's really simple. You just scan a QR code, like the one you see there, to register. And using encrypted media and signaling, we've solved the security concerns. But WebRTC ticks many of the boxes for security with encrypted signaling and media, but there's a lot more to it than that. As you know from previous SIMWOOD talks, like Simon's Astracon keynote and some of our past VoIP fraud talks, these are things that we tend to care a lot about. So while WebRTC takes care of the encryption somewhat, and keeping it on bare metal within our own network takes care of the security side of things, there's much more to it that we're still working on. Without a doubt, the absolute best form of encryption is if you can't find the media at all, so that would be peer-to-peer call flows for privacy and signaling for anonymity. But there's much more to it, and we want to know as little about you as possible. There's also the question of contact discovery and privacy versus anonymity versus usability. And we have some interesting ideas about those things, so keep an eye out for upcoming blog posts and talks, because we're going to be kind of talking about that kind of later on. Going back to the simple registration, there's a lot more you can do with SIMWOOD, trunks, and VoxApp.
So as Kathleen said, it's really easy to set up. You download an app, you scan a QR code, and hey presto, you're up and running. It works with multiple trunks, multiple IDs, creative routing, parallel dialing, time of day routing, all of that kind of thing. Now, all of those things I just listed off are something you would expect to be something that a PBX takes care of, whereas we've got creative routing, time of day routing, all that kind of thing baked into the core of our network. So you can have a VoxApp instance and a SIMWOOD trunk with nothing in the middle and still have all of those kind of functionality. So when we talk about trunks, we don't talk about it in the conventional sense where it might be some dumb pipe to a carrier. We see it as an administrative unit where you benefit from those functions as well as fraud prevention and all the other things we harp on about. So with all that said, I thought it'd probably be a good idea to show you some rough cool scenarios or use cases for how this might work. So in its simplest form, on the left, you might just have a normal number pointing at a VoxApp instance and making and receiving calls. Secondly, you might take advantage of some of the time of day routing where you might have one number ringing one instance Monday to Friday 9 till 5, but another instance on weekends, and similarly a global number, a Spanish number for example, ringing in parallel two different instances at the same time. But why stop there? You could put your mobile number in, your work mobile number, and have 4 or 5 numbers pointing at one instance with clear differentiation. And you talk about mobile numbers, what's next? SMS. So we baked a bit of SMS into it. Now this is a demo that we've had working, so I'm going to come out of this and try and show you. So there's a rough example. Oh, hello. Hang on a minute. I'm going to need to fix this quickly. Well, hang on, it's probably easier if I just... Hey again. Ah, that was useful, thank you. So you can see some example SMS that we've had over the last few days of the chat working. Yeah, it's still in beta, as mentioned. Just try and go back. Oh. Command F1 to go back. Perfect. Oh. So that was SMS. What might supposed that. Finally, or next, third-party registration was a high-demand feature when we had Simwood Mobile. So we've baked third-party registration into. We know not everyone's going to want to use this with a Simwood trunk, so it made sense to open it up and allow more people to download and register. Kathleen can probably demo this in the bar later. This presentation's got far too many demos as it is. Moving on, I'll go back to a slide I touched on previously. Peer-to-peer was something that features quite heavily in this. From a security point of view, the least we know about you, the better. So the more sort of peer-to-peer calling and SMS we can do, great. It's better for us, better for you. It's on the roadmap, so it's not something that's there yet, but it's high on the priority list. Finally, with everything we've discussed or hinted, we have one last sentiment to share with you. Phone calls are a pain in the ass, or at least we think so. How often have you received a phone call when you're going into a meeting or need to call someone and they're not available? You get all that fluff on the phone calls. Hi, how are you? Good weekend. You just want to know the bit in the middle, right? You also see people dictating text messages using Siri, and then the other end you might have someone have Siri dictate the message back to them. So you've got this kind of voice to text, text to voice, and there's loads of things that can go wrong with that, with accents and translation issues and so on. Seems a little bit inefficient, right? So why not speech to speech? We demonstrated this in February at SimCon 2. It got really good feedback. So we're going to try and show you again for those that missed it. We know that there's lots of positive use cases for this, especially once you put peer-to-peer in there. You get someone trapped under a car park after an earthquake or something, the mobile network might be down. If you can use push-to-talk with Bluetooth and peer-to-peer, then it might save someone's life. So there's lots of other sort of use cases and benefits to that. So let's see if we can demonstrate this. I'm going to try and send it to you. Hello, Kathleen. Anyone there? Come in. And I'll send one to Simon, just in case. Say again? Yeah, conference Wi-Fi might be playing up. Simon, come in. We're near the end of our talk. Over and out. I can show you on the screen if you want later. So push to talk. It's something baked in at an alpha level at the moment. It's partially working. So finally, everything you've seen from us today, as mentioned a few times, is super alpha. The app itself is in beta at present, just like our presentation skills. Come and talk to us about VoxAP, or if you haven't spoke to us already, come and say hi. It'd be nice to put some new faces to new names. I think Kathleen's got one last thing before we hand over for questions.
If you'd like to see some demos, we're taking part in the hackathon tomorrow at 3:10, so join us over there. We're going to be around to answer questions and help troubleshoot, so we can also kind of demo, hopefully, a little bit better then as well. So, yeah. Any questions?
We need sorry for that one, didn't we?
So the basic question, is VoxApp open source?
I don't believe it's open source, but talk to me afterwards. I could probably answer that a little bit better.
And just to be more dangerous with Lorenzo here, it seems you're using Drachtio mainly for bespoke WebSocket signaling to SIP. Why Drachtio instead of, say, Meet Tetra or other SIP WebSocket to SIP technologies?
I can't speak for the entire development team, but I think it just has to do with the way that we liked Drachtio. We saw it, kind of played with it a bit, saw what it could do, and decided that that really was kind of what we wanted to use, and it kind of met our needs.
So if I understand right, you're on the connection to the client, to the mobile device, you're keeping a WebSocket open to your server between the client and the device?
Yeah, I believe so.
Does that work? Everything I've found, often, especially with iOS, is that Apple they can kill an app that's in the background for no good reason, which is why they've always pushed their push notification servers and the specific, it's not really, it's a VoIP flag, isn't it, within Apple push notification that says this is a high priority push notification, because you can't, so the biggest problem I think is if you tried like setting up the app, logging in, and then, backgrounding the app and leaving it a couple of days, not touching the app, using other things, then trying to make a call, does that re-establish?
Yeah, I've used this app as my own desk phone from Simwood for the last 6 months.
But you're going into the app probably on a regular basis. So what like leave an app for a week.
I load it up and it stays there.
But without getting a call or anything, so leaving it dormant for...
Inbound calls open it, awaken it.
Yeah, but then obviously that's enough to bring it back into the foreground for an ingoing. What I'm thinking is like an app where you don't receive a call maybe for a week. So let's say you launch the app and you go on holiday, so you're not touching your work phone at all.
Yeah.
Everything I've always found, especially with iOS, is that you can't be sure that any third-party app connections are going to be nailed up.
I don't know if that's been tested. I don't know if we've ever left it that long. We receive more calls.
That's the real world. So obviously when you're testing, it's great because you're like, oh yeah, I'm using it, or you're on your desk phone all the time. But take somebody who, the classic scenario we found was somebody who goes on holiday for a week or something, doesn't use the app, but is using their phone. So they're using Instagram, they're using Facebook. So the memory usage. So what the iPhone does is it kills off the app in the background because it goes, oh yeah, I want some more resources for Facebook. This app hasn't been foregrounded for 24 hours. We'll kill it off.
We don't know, do we?
I think we'll have to implement that as sort of a test case, because I think when any of us go on holiday, we're still pretty busy, pretty
And that's
active,
the problem is we're not, when you build it, we're not normal users. We're in the app every day, but when we found this was a few years ago, we built a VoIP calling app, but that was the biggest problem was, so you always need to like leave a phone, in a box somewhere, and it's a soap test type of thing.
It once a month.
The iPhone, and then come straight back to it without launching the app. And the first thing you do is make an inbound call and see if it comes through, because that's the the acid test. Try that.
Yeah, we'll have to try it.
I wanted to ask, like, you move all the zip trunk inside the cloud for using Drachtio Node.js stuff. So how do you scalable it, like, if you have, like, about scalability, because registrars and SBCs are used to all this stuff, but how do you?
Well, we're not actually using the cloud. It's all kind of on our own network. Simwood's got a pretty extensive and I think pretty cool network within the UK.
What do you mean your own network? Like not like Amazon and stuff like that?
Like we have locations in Slough, Manchester, and then in London. I actually have a pretty cool graphic I can show you that'll kind of lay it out, and you can kind of see with fiber and things between. So.
Thank you. On the subject of WebRTC and NAT transversal and that kind of thing, would you be able to talk at all about what you're doing there and what kind of percentages you see have to fall back over turn servers versus how often you can get connectivity over stun to sort of endpoints behind NAT?
I wouldn't have any of that readily available, but if you talk to me afterwards, I can show you some of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Frazer, Kathleen. Great demo. I see you've incorporated SMS. Do you have any plans in your roadmap for RCS support?
I'm not sure yet. We're kind of looking for a little bit of feedback as well as to what we should look for after we've kind of incorporated some of the peer-to-peer stuff and stuff like that. So maybe, possibly in the future.
Are you on the beta test?
Possibly. I haven't tried it yet. But, so probably I have access to it, but no, I haven't tried
Let's
it.
get you on it, and then we can get some of those bits of feedback and feature requests.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
A big round of applause. I mean, for being their first presentation, they did a great work.